Well, we are back with you once again, everybody, for another exciting edition of the 19th Hole Podcast for golfers. I'm your host, Dennis Silvers, and hoping you're having a good day. We thank you for tuning in on whatever platform you might be on. We hope you're getting a chance to get out, play some golf. The weather here in Las Vegas is still good because it's still hot, and we are getting into summertime. A lot of people here in the summer obviously like to play early before it reaches 105, 110 or whatever. But if you don't mind it and you like it in the afternoon, my God, you could get out and probably get around in no time. We're coming to you live, of course, from the fabulous Rigel Studios right in the heart of Las Vegas, moments away from the world famous Las Vegas Strip. And last week, quite a deal with the PGA Championship won by Brooks Koepka, and you don't want to tell anybody, but he's a live player, all right? So that's going to validate a lot of the stuff that's going on with the live tour. We're going to ask our guest a little bit later in the show what he thinks about live and where it's going and so on and so forth. But I guess the story of the tournament was Michael Block, who's a teaching professional in Mission Viejo in Orange County in Southern California with, he played great, number one, for a club professional, and number two, that hole-in-one he made was absolutely spectacular. So he got well paid. What did he make out? $280,000+ for his effort. He got an invitation to the Charles Schwab Cup that's going on right now in Texas. So done a lot of interviews. So I think you're going to be hearing a little more from this guy, and be interesting to see what path he takes. Anyway, let me tell you about our special guest, one of my favorite people to have on the show, one of my favorite people, period. Let's talk about Adam Bazalgette. Adam is a Class A PGA member and teaches full-time at a wonderful facility called Mediterra, where he is the director of instruction, and Mediterra is located in beautiful Naples, Florida. Adam is a former tour player where he played several mini tour events, went to work for our friend David Ledbetter in 1992 in Orlando. In 94, Adam was promoted to Academy Director at David Ledbetter's facility in Naples. During the next 13 years, Adam also traveled, in addition to running the Academy and teaching, where he gave golf lessons, corporate events, taught schools across the United States as well as abroad. So that's a lot of fun to do, a lot of work, but a lot of fun to do. Adam eventually was hired by Mediterra as their director of instruction and has taught schools with some of the game's most noted players. We'll talk about that with him a little bit. He is also the owner of Scratch Golf Academy, one of the most successful online teaching sites. And we'll give that also a mention. So without further ado, let's bring up my friend Adam Bazalgette. And Adam, I know you're busy. You're out there on the lesson tee day and night, but thanks for taking time out, my friend, and coming on the show. We love having you.
Always nice to talk to you, Dennis.
I appreciate it. Nice. Let me kick it off this way. Adam, what in your view was the biggest takeaway you had when you played competitive golf that helps you in your teaching today?
Oh, boy, that's a good one.
Well, this is not going to be an easy interview. You know me. These are no popcorn interviews.
I know, really. It's I think it's a little different for someone that's really trying to compete versus someone that's just trying to get to where they can not embarrass themselves and get started in golf. You know, some of the priorities, but certainly I think the thing you take away when you play golf, period, let alone in a tournament, is whatever you're working on, You have to do it with a pretty quiet mind, and it has to be fairly simple for you to do. Doesn't mean it doesn't need some practice or it's not an adjustment, but
Right.
if it's complex, if it's putting a lot of things together and trying to manufacture a certain look that isn't natural to you, complex, it's not going to work when you get out there to really
Yeah.
play.
Yeah. I know that you took instruction from Led for a number of years before you
I
started
did.
playing these events. And let me ask you this. When you are out on tour, do you, because of the competitive nature, because of the different types of golf courses you're playing, because of the different types of shots that you have to produce, does your game improve through all of that?
It's a good question. Now, the kind of tour I was playing in those days, you're talking in the mid 1980s, they didn't have Corn Ferry tours and
Right.
Canadian tours and all these. They had mini tours, and they were either the ones located in the central Florida area, which is where I was, having grown up in England, or Arizona, Southern California. They had a set of them out there. And you'd get some tour players that lost their card that would be playing, then they go out. So it was kind of that sort of a tour. But
Right.
in terms of do those shots improve your game, I really think nuts and bolts, you've got to be, I'm not saying I was the best at it either, but you've got to have a pretty good action where you can compress the ball, you can drive it forward, get some distance, have reasonable directional. I mean, you've got to be able to hit the ball off a flat lie with a 6-iron. And I think once you're good at that and you have good compression of the ball, the other shots can be developed reasonably easily for someone that's done that.
Yeah.
I don't know that you now certainly, hey, playing mixed, playing in the wind, practicing in a
Sure.
crosswind, playing in those things develop a certain amount of awareness and skill. But I think the ability to compress it and hit it, shape it somewhat at will, those are the barometer tests that tell you if you've really got what it takes to play the game well.
When you start doing that, and you obviously did that very well and still do it very well, how much does that help your confidence when you're out playing, Adam?
If it's going very well, it helps it a lot. I mean, I think deep down your subconscious kind of knows, hey, I've got a good opportunity to compress this ball and control the direction pretty well. And when you're struggling and you're fighting with timing to get the club on the ball and you're missing some balls offline because your hands are too active,
Yeah.
you can kind of tell, and your confidence plummets a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's
I mean, I've always been a believer that, for the most part, that one's confidence is based to a large extent on what you experience. If something's easy for you, you have confidence in it. If you
Sure.
make a lot of mistakes and struggle in an area, you don't. Now,
Right.
there's no question some people, and I maybe was one of these people, will tend to get a little more uptight and undersell themselves than they need to be based on their, but in other words, their preset tendency mentally is a little on the underconfident struggle side. And some people, the opposite, they seem to have so much confidence, even
Right.
though to you they're good, but they haven't demonstrated that much ability, but they're just naturally
Yeah.
buoyant. That's a good trait to have.
Yeah. Does somebody's confidence come into play as far as how you instruct them, how they interpret your instruction, and eventually how they start hitting the ball? Personality have something to do with it?
In a certain sense, I'm not sure confidence is the word. I would just say some people take a typical CEO or a entrepreneur that started from scratch and now has 70 employees and solves problems all day. They're more big picture, take a risk, stick their neck out there type of people as a rule.
Yeah.
And so for that sort of person, and they generally have a fair amount of confidence too, by the way, but for that sort of person, that personality style, hey, you can't get too piecemealed and bogged down and go to the mirror for 20 minutes and look at details of swing on. They're not into that too much. They don't
Right.
mind a little something if it's getting the result better. Now, I think once you get to know them and get some trust with them, if that happens, then you can maybe lead them back and say, hey, I know you just want to bash drivers, but let's take a little time to work on something. And at the other end of it, I think if you get someone that's very, engineering type mind, a lot of doctors, they're very detail and process oriented and like to get everything in order. They're thinking they need a certain amount of detail and build up before they're able to let go more. So you kind of
Right.
got to bring each party more to a somewhere in the middle, but gradually.
Yeah, so they're more methodical, and that
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. Speaking
But
about
if you're
20, Go
yeah,
ahead.
if you're a very methodical, detail-oriented coach, and you get the CEO, for lack of a better term, in there and try to immediately go methodical, you'll have struggles, and the
Yeah.
other way around too.
Yeah, I totally agree. Speaking about
You
20
gotta kind of
minutes,
meet them where they're at.
right, right. Speaking about 20 minutes in the mirror, there's been talk over the last couple of years, Adam, with people within the golf industry about what they feel the proper length of a teaching lesson should be. A lot of people think that an hour is way, way too much information, too much time to work on too many things. They're thinking maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes, work on one item, and then let it go. What's your feeling about that?
Well, I mean, I think in an abstract or ideal world, probably 15 or 20 minutes would be great, but that would assume it's convenient for all parties and you can do that frequently.
Yeah.
But that generally isn't the case. So I think, if someone, for instance, in Naples is driving 40 minutes to come for a golf lesson, they're not going to come for 15 minutes. I went, do you know who Todd Sones is?
Yes. Oh,
great
yes.
short-
Oh, yes.
He's probably been on the show. Todd has always been nice to me. I've had him come to this facility and do guest golf schools before. Very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
So one day, Todd, this is years ago, he said, "Hey, why don't you come on up to Chicago, my home base? You can stay at the house and just observe the school for a day if you want and hang out. And this is the off season down here." So I said, "I'd love to." So I went up there, and one of the things I took a lot away from that. But one of the things was Todd said, "I've gone on my private lessons. He does a lot of schools to 45 minutes." He said, half an hour is kind of short, hour's a bit long. 45 minutes, I think, hits the sweet spot. And I talked to him about that, and I watched him. I thought, that's a good idea. And from then on, I've dropped from an hour to 45 minutes.
Okay. I like that. I like that. And I think you can get overloaded depending on the instructor, but I think you're right. 45 would be the sweet spot. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Adam,
Now, as I've become more, go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead, finish.
As I've become more experienced and hopefully better at teaching golf, one of the things I find, sometimes you get a 45-minute lesson, hey, you hit the ground running, you get a couple of things you like,
Right.
and you feel like that's probably enough, but there's 25 minutes left. So one of two things is the right approach then. Either just keep banging away at those few things, don't go to something else, or say to yourself, hey, I think you know what you're trying to do here. What else in the game might you want to do? I'm fortunate there's a great short game area right back here. So we say, hey, I'm happy to watch this for another 20, but maybe do you want to go hit some putts or chips? And usually that's like, great, yeah, I feel like it, and we'll do that. So,
There you go. There you go. That's great. And just thinking off the top, Adam, what do you think about instructors that not only give golf instruction, but they also guide you, for lack of a better word, in nutrition, in club fitting, in the mental game? I mean, they're a jack of all trades and a master of none. Do you think that's good for a person to get involved in?
Oh boy, I mean, I think it would be pretty difficult to really have a lot to offer in three
Yeah.
or four or five categories.
Yeah.
I feel like for me, I know the very rudimentary stuff about club fitting. I can put someone through a few body tests when I suspect something. Diet, I don't really know much about that. Club fitting, as I said, I know the rudimentary parts. So I'm more I feel like I have enough knowledge to sort of see a problem and defer
Yeah.
to some experts around me in there. I
Yeah.
think the mental side of the game is an area where I have a pretty good sense of it in terms of learning how to practice better, how not to get in your own way, ideas on the golf course. So I feel like I can kind of have that as a second fiddle to some extent,
That's
but
good.
not all these other things.
Yeah, that's good. I always say, if you're good at one thing, stay with it and
Yeah.
just keep getting better and better and better at it. And I've got a good question for you as far as the mental game. We're going to step away, Adam. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we'll have a lot more with our special guest, Mr. Adam Bazalgette. So stay with us. Back right after this. The revolutionary Power to Golf Club requires no swing to hit golf shots from 50 up to 225 yards. That's right, no swing. And it's empowering golfers with physical issues to continue enjoying time golfing with friends and family. With just the push of a button, the easy-to-use Power to Golf Club launches shots down the fairway and onto the green. Whether a physical issue or just want to join in on the fun, the Power to Golf Club is for you. Visit online, powergolfclub.com. All right, welcome back, everybody. What do you say we give our special guest, Adam Bazalgette, a big round of applause for being with us today? There you go, buddy. I've had on several top mental coaches on the show, and all of them, nearly all of them, has said, in their opinion, golf is 100% mental. That includes mechanics. That includes course management. Everything, because it all starts from up here. How do you look at that? Agree or not?
Oh, I think ultimately you would have to agree with that. Your brain controls your body. Your brain controls your decision making. So, I mean, to a certain extent, yeah. I mean, listen, some people are gifted with a lot more natural athletic talent than other people. And you could still say that originates in the brain, but it's kind of just a God-given thing. And some people work harder than other people at it for whatever reason they have time. So, I mean, there's a number of components, but ultimately it's a very mental game. I think the thing with golf, it's a low margin for error game. So I don't care how good you are going to hit a lot of shots you don't love and have quite a few rounds where you struggle, or stretches in rounds where you struggle. So you have to be able to deal with that and not just grind yourself into the floor or beat yourself up or whatever. Second thing is, there's a lot of mechanics and there's a lot happening in a golf swing, a lot of angles and pivots and pitches and hinges and things like that. And it's a still ball sport. So you have plenty of time to overthink and get a jerky start to the swing and get in your own way a bit. Now, tennis has its challenges, golf doesn't, but tennis or soccer, everything's moving so quickly, you're reacting like that. So getting out of your own way and creating some fluid motion, to use Stephen Yellin's term, if you've ever had him on there, but that's challenging. And so not to mention decision making. So I think it's a good deal of it's mental.
Yeah, that's very challenging.
But if you have a strong mind and you know statistics, but you don't have good action and no physical talent, you'll struggle.
Well, that's what I tell them. If I had a choice of having really good swing mechanics and a so-so mental game, I'm sorry, I think I could figure it out enough to get myself around the golf course and play well if I've got good mechanics, right?
Listen, if you're a Henrik Stenson ball striker, you're going to figure some stuff out and make some progress. But if you stink and the face is open and you don't make good contact and you have much ability, I don't care how much strategy you put in there, you'll struggle.
Oh, I agree, 100%. Adam, in your view, and you're the perfect one to ask, having been a competitive player, does a really good golf coach like yourself need to have been a competitive player before he starts teaching?
I think not necessarily. I think you have to at least, though, have put in years of trying to become a good player and battling it and working on your swing and taking lessons and some level of tournament play. I mean, you have to have gone through it to teach it, I think.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just, what do you know? I mean, what real applications can you make? In fact, I think for me, because I was a good player, but not an extraordinarily good player, and I think I could have been better if I'd maybe gotten in some different habits and gotten a little bit of different outlooks on things early. It doesn't matter. It's water under the bridge. But because I fought so hard to develop my swing like I liked it and struggled, I wasn't like a Sam Snead or anything.
Right.
I think that's actually helped me as a teacher, not just with the struggle element of it, but just getting a better sense of the where's and why fors and what works and what doesn't, because I've tried so much of it,
Right. I just got a text message from somebody wanted me to ask you, what got you into golf in the first place?
back when I was probably 8, 9, we used to have this little summer cottage in the north of Scotland. I say we, my dad, family. I'm the youngest of 4 kids. I have 2 older brothers, older sisters. So anyway, dad and the 2 older brothers, we had a nice municipal course there, very accessible. Liked to play on these holidays, and so I would go out and walk around and usually caddy for dad. And I liked it. I just thought it was the aesthetics appealed to me, the whole
Yeah.
look of it, and I
Yeah.
wanted to be with my family and brothers and everything. So next thing you know, I got the club tucked under my arm and I'm bonking these balls like that. So dad, of course, liked that. So he got me a little sawn off small set of clubs, which is actually, if I can digress for a second,
Sure.
an old attorney in town. Dad had been up there before I was born in the Royal Air Force, and an old attorney friend of his who is quite old then, his dad had clubs made for him. In those days, the pro made the clubs. This is now back in the 30s or 20s. And he
Wow.
had these little hickory shafted Niblix mashies at junior size. They were up in the attic. And he said, look, Adam's getting into it. Do you still have your old junior clubs? He said, oh, yeah, I do. I'll pull them down, a little tiny leather bag. So I played with like hickory shafted clubs the first year or two, but they fit. And I loved it right away. So anyway, when we came to America a number of years later, Dad started getting me good lessons, and I was
Yeah.
just off and running.
Yeah, that's great. Like I tell people, that it's going to either bite you or it's not going to bite you, and if it
Yeah.
does, you're gonna be a fan forever.
For
Adam,
sure.
we've talked about this before, but I categorize instructors basically into 2 groups. Those instructors that are fairly technical or are technical, and the instructors that, go by the KISS rule, which I like, which is keep it simple,
Yeah.
stupid. Why do you think instructors choose to be one way or the other? Is it their background? Is it because they want to keep on the latest stuff? Why do you think that is? I love the way you teach, and if people get a chance to see your videos on wherever, you'll see that I think Adam keeps it so simple, so easy to understand. It's great, but why do people choose to be one way or the other?
It's probably somewhat influenced by who taught them and who they took lessons from. And I think some of it's just innate personality preferences. Some people are very techie and they like this and they like
Yeah.
to figure out the details. Other people are a little, just by nature, a little more people and sort of, I don't know, keep it simple type people. I think the best teachers, David Ledbetter was always great at this, and this is one of his mantras. The best teachers process the most information in their head, and what comes out to the person doesn't seem like very much. It's
Yeah.
pretty simple, but it's had a lot of thought behind it. That's what we're all trying to do, for sure.
Yeah.
I think another thing too, to me, just very broad brush outlines on learning golf or teaching golf, if you like. The human being is amazingly designed and put together to work with tools and objects brilliantly. You give someone a toothbrush, they'll figure out how to get the thing level without any coaching on arm angles and shoulder position, whatever, etc. Put a broom in someone's hand and get a spider web down, they go right to it. People are amazing with tools and objects, and they rarely, when they use them, do they think about the body. They just think about what the tool's supposed to do.
Right, right.
So I think people, as a baseline rule, should relate more to the club. What does it need? More down, more up, more this way, more closed, and less to the body parts. But most people don't do that, because I talk to people at the beginning of golf lessons all the time and say, okay, you're thinning it or topping it. We just looked at that. You told me that. What do you think's going on? Rarely do they mention the club. It's just, I'm not turning enough, or I'm too quick, or my arm's not tucked in, or just stuff. And that you can tell they're not in tune with the club and the game enough. So I think generally, one of the ways that you're going to get the most out of it, and in a way keep it the simplest, is be very clear about what you want the club to do, what it needs more of or less of.
Right.
I think you'll find things a lot quicker that way. Now
Right.
that's not against teaching some stuff with the body, but the body should relate to the goal of the club.
Right.
I think people would do better that way.
Oh, I agree. I'm assuming that you use video in your teaching, Adam?
I do. And we're
Okay.
fortunate. In fact, I'm in the learning center right now. We're fortunate at this place, got cameras built in the room, in the wall, big TV, but we hit right out to the range, and the grass tee is 10 yards away. So we mostly hit off the turf, but walk in here and get quick feedback. It's great. We're fortunate. I think it helps.
Oh, definitely. I think it's one of the greatest things that's ever happened to instruction. How amazed are people when they see themselves on video and they go, that's not me. I don't do that. Blah, blah. It's amazing, isn't it?
Somewhat amazed, yeah, somewhat amazed, yeah.
God,
They generally are shocked at it a little bit, yeah.
yeah,
Now, of course, in very slowed down, people's swings don't look as good generally as they do at high speed. So people don't see that when they're playing with them as much.
right, right,
But yeah, definitely
yeah.
approach it. Definitely get people.
Adam, what's the commonality of problem or problems that most of your people come to you today for?
Well, I mean, what I try to get out of them is you can kind of tell from scoring level, but what I try to get out of them is would you say your primary issue is poor contact, maybe related to that lack of distance, or is it more of a directional issue? Now, no question they're going to be somewhat muddled together, but you try to get distill from them and see from what you're seeing when you watch them hit.
Right.
What's the biggest need here? Now, for someone like me who's played a lot, I'm not saying I hit it perfectly solidly every time, but it's generally pretty solidly. It's much more about direction.
Right.
And that's generally the more skilled player. Tour players pretty much always hit it solidly and always hit it pretty far. They just don't control their direction as much. So I think as a baseline, I got this from the stack and tilt guys a little bit as a thinking point, Andy and Mike. Reasonable contact is first. Then can you create enough speed and energy in the ball to get around the golf course? And then finally, can you dial it in directionally? And they do kind of come together as well, but that's sort of your baseline. If
Right.
someone's shooting 100, 110, has played for 3 years, they're not making solid contact very consistently.
No, that's for sure. But do you go along? It seems the philosophy today with even the better players or whatever. Well, I'd rather hit it far and be a little bit in the woods rather than give up 30 yards and be in the middle of the fairway. What do you say to that?
Couple of things. I mean, I think statistics, and they've really crunched this thing out now. I mean, it's not like there's a lot of guessing. Distance is really big. I mean, it really is. Now, interesting stat I got from Andrew Rice the other day. You know who Andrew is?
Yeah.
And Andrew's a big ping guy. In other words, with the ping research people, he's a spokesperson for Arcos, that wonderful device you put in the cap of the club
Right.
and stat track. Now, they've got millions of shots on record from different handicap
Yeah.
levels. They find the average median amateur player, whatever that is, 15, 18 handicap, hits the fairway 3% more often with their 3-wood than their driver. Now, people never say that. They always say, I hit my 3-wood, I can always hit in the fairway. My driver I struggle with. But that's a stat they know is a
Interesting.
true stat. So what they're saying is, hey, listen, for the most part, unless you've got a canal across the fairway and you can drive it into, get the thing down there. Now, certainly another statement that comes into play with this statistically is that if you have enough skill to get pretty good contact and bash it out there with some length, you probably have enough good things going on that your directional control is relatively good.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like it's just two separate categories in reality. The
Yeah.
skill to produce consistent contact and clubhead speed results in relative distance control, generally.
True. No,
By the
that's
way, if anyone's interested, I get a lot of comments on YouTube and things about, I'd like to take golf lesson. I don't live in Florida or whatever. I go out on the road in the summer. This summer I'm planning to be in Maryland, Boston, New York, Michigan, maybe Texas, some different places. If you're interested in maybe a mini school or getting more information, just go to AdamBGolf, ADAMBGOLF.com. The website's kind of under construction, but you can get to me through that, leave a message, and I'm happy to get you information, meet with you in person if you'd like to, for those of you that like to watch the YouTube videos and things.
yeah, absolutely. So when you come to Las Vegas to do a school?
Well, hey, all I need is an invite, right? I probably would if I had a place that would let me come out for a couple of days and do it, but
Oh, I
you
think
kind of have to.
think I could arrange a place for you, Adam, without any problem. If you come
think
out,
so?
then we get to tee it up. You give me 2 aside, and we'll go for it.
To a side, okay. All right, I don't know. You probably too good for that. Hey, funny enough, here's a quick anecdote on two aside. Okay, I'll give you a good two aside story. One of my good friends in life, and I've taught him for 25, 30 years. There's a guy called Steve Rogers down here. You wouldn't know. He's a stockbroker from Kentucky. He's getting a little
Okay.
bit older now. But anyway,
Okay.
just a quickie. He's won the Kentucky Amateur Open Senior.
Wow.
Finished second in the British Amateur. He's played in the U.S. Senior Open.
Wow.
7-time champion. I mean, this guy can play. And Rocco Mediate was a member, this is about 10 years ago, at the same club he's at. It's a hard golf course where he's 7-time club champion. And he's played 9 holes at Rocco 20 times.
Wow.
And Rocco would always give him 2 shots for the 9, and Steve never once beat Rocco.
Ooh, okay.
So, you know, when you're talking guys that have really made a living and won on the big stage, they're pretty good.
Yeah, they
Because
are.
if you played with Steve, he's really good.
They are pretty
Two
good.
aside was not enough.
Yeah, no, I think to be honest with you, Adam, I think two aside is more than generous for me because sometimes I cheat. You know what I mean? And so that's gonna be tough for you. Anyway,
That's okay.
I before we take our next break, Adam, I want to ask you this. I think that golfers get way too much information, which is a cause for a lot of their confusion. And what I mean by that is you've got golf magazines, other golf publications, you've got instructional DVDs, you've got instructional CDs, you've got YouTube, you've got, whatever. And I think it causes confusion a lot of times. Do you agree or disagree? And if you do, what's your advice for helping them out if that's the case?
Okay, I mean, I think ultimately I agree. Now, the reasons I think certainly different instructors have different preferences or they phrase things different way
Yeah.
and it can come across a bit differently, or the video they're making is very much emphasizing this issue and someone who's slightly off topic with that says,
Right.
I thought, you can get a lot of that. Second thing is, I think one of the big issues people come to it with is they many times don't have a very discerning ear or eye. That is to say, and I tell people this in golf lessons. Let's say I've got someone in a golf lesson that, well, let's say they're poor pivot, their weight hangs on their front foot or
Okay.
something like that, and then they can't shift their weight coming in. Let's just say. So I might say to them, hey, listen, there's a lot of YouTube videos on the backswing pivot and various drills for that. You might want to check some of those out. You might find a drill that maybe we didn't touch on here. So in other
Right.
words, it'd be like if I said, okay, I have X issue health-wise, I could then maybe go to Google and search drugs that help that issue and maybe
Right.
have some
Right.
kind of an intelligent search.
Right.
But if I just walk into the drugstore saying, I'm not feeling well, here's 500 bottles of pills, let's try this one, there's no telling what could happen.
Right. True.
So I think when you know what your issue is and you have some sense of that or the issue you're addressing that's relevant to your swing, then you can go look at that issue as discussed online and maybe find something you think is fresh or interesting or helpful. What happens,
Exactly.
people don't do this. They just
Yeah.
browse, they think, oh, this is cool. Oh, that's a cool guy, or this is an interesting
Correct.
background. They just play the video and he says, do this. And they think, well, I'll try that tomorrow.
Correct.
So that's when you get into trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Adam, stay with us again. We're going to take another short break and come back. We'll finish up with my good friend Adam Bazalgette, and we'll wrap up the show, and I've got some good questions for him coming up. We'll be right back. One of the perks about being in golf media is that I get to try every club ever made. Of course, like most things, some are better than others. I'm here to tell you that I have found unquestionably the absolute best performing set of irons I have ever played, and my scores show it. Let me introduce you to Grindworks, custom fitted irons that are made to fit your game. Grindworks offers players 3 different styles of irons. You can choose muscleback irons, cavity back irons, and even blades, along with some awesome wedges. And when you purchase your clubs, Grindworks lets you choose the type of shaft you want, the type grip you prefer, and even will adjust the loft and lie of your clubs if needed. That's unheard of. So what are you waiting for? Feel the power and experience and performance of these amazing clubs. Simply go to grindworksusa.com or call 281-651-4046 to order. Trust me, your handicap will love you for it.
As golfers, we want instant gratification when it comes to a better golf swing and playing better golf. Impossible, you say? Not anymore. Golf Boost Artificial Intelligence, AI, has developed and patented the most advanced swing analysis technology in golf. Simply, the algorithms detect your body position and then analyze your golf swing using their artificial intelligence technology. The AI captures all the relevant data from your swing video and then presents you a personalized lesson. Golf Boost AI is the ultimate swing analysis and virtual instruction system for golfers of all ages and abilities. This sophisticated software takes into consideration your height and build, playing level, and returns the ideal solution for your swing. Bottom line, Golf Boost AI is an incredibly convenient and cost-effective tool for golfers to improve their swing. Go to golfboost.com and check it out. The app is free to download and try. Visit golfboost.com today.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We're going to wrap things up with Adam, who's been kind enough to hang out with us here on the 19th Hole podcast for golfers. Adam, everybody I play golf with, the people that I know, and a lot of industry people do not like the idea of what the R&A and the USGA want to do as far as rolling back the ball. Tour professionals don't like it. Club makers don't like it. Ball manufacturers don't like it. What's your view?
I mean, there's certainly valuable thinking points on both sides of this thing, for sure. I mean, at some point, first thing, which I don't know the answer to this, how much longer can it get? I mean, are we more or less capped out, or can it keep getting longer? Of course, 15 years ago, they thought they'd capped out, and it's not. So, I mean, I can see where these courses are starting to be so long and these players hit the ball so far, it's just a bit ridiculous. I don't know that I'd roll it back. I think if they just put some limits going forward, maybe the thing to do. You follow me?
Yeah.
In other words, if it's 80 miles an hour speed limit on the highway and it used to be 60, then 65, then 75, maybe we don't go back to 60. I'm just using it as an example,
Right.
but maybe we cap it at 80 or 85.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah. I think
I don't think people want to play a different ball to what the pros play. I don't see that that's appealing to people.
I don't either. And I've always contended, Adam, for a long time, the best way to slow these guys up is maybe, the design of the golf course, have them have to hit shots, draws, fades, high, low. Green complexes could be a little bit more difficult. But people that go out and watch events, Adam, you know this, love to see these guys pounded as far as they can.
They like to see birdies. They like to see the ball pounded. I mean, listen, today's best players, when they're at their best, which if they're leading the tournament, they are, in the absence of bad weather, you can make the fairways pretty thin. They're still going to get in that fairway when they're playing well.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And, you can make the course as hard as you like. Still the longest, straightest hit with the shorter irons into the greens. I mean, it's just, you can't take that away, that distances. Now, if you put a whole bunch of ditches across the fairway at 320, that might be, but who wants to do that?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
They're always going to try to hit it as far as they can. They're always going to go for the driver if they're playing reasonably under reasonable conditions.
Right.
So you can't really change that dynamic.
Yeah. No.
It's like apparently in the 1930s, I think it was, they sort of said, hey, look, too much emphasis on putting on golf, and so they said let's have a couple of events with much bigger holes, maybe half again or twice the size, kind of make it a little easier so it's not so important. They found the same. Everybody made more putts, but the best putter made more putts than the not so good putt. It was just it didn't change the. You follow me?
Yeah.
So it didn't change the advantage point. So you can make the course whatever length you make it. The people that hit it longer and straighter and dial their irons in with those short irons are still going to win.
They're still going to play good. Absolutely. All right, talk to me about the Live Tour a little bit. What's your opinion about that? The guys that I know that are traditionalists mostly don't like it for the fact that, they're playing music, they're wearing shorts, 54 holes, team events, yada, yada, yada. I like it personally, but what's your thoughts?
I think it's fun. It's different. This again, there can be arguments both sides. I mean, to me, the thing is, can it stand on its own merits? In other words, I realize it's in its first year, but can it at some point, without huge cash infusion from the Saudis or whoever sticks money in there, can it be entertaining enough to work on its own merits? Can it attract those top players on what it? I'm not sure that it can, and that's part of free market. So hey, in the very short run, this thing's gotten a boost. Will the Saudis want to keep pumping in hundreds of millions a year? They probably can afford it as long as oil's coming out of the ground. I mean, that would be a little bit, in a way, it's a little bit like, okay, tradition of the game aside, hey, if they want to wear shorts and play music, whatever, if people think that's fun. I wouldn't want to see it in the US Open. But tradition aside for a second, I think in the free market world, if I'm selling auto parts over here and someone else is doing it there, who does the best job, who has the best inventory, the best prices, service. But if I'm doing a kind of a crummy job over here, but my dad left me 600 million and I don't mind propping up the business every year, then that kind of artificially you could say, well, he's in business, people are going to his store, but he's having to backload it with cash to keep it open. The doors open, the other guy isn't. So can it eventually stand on its own merits? Will it have to is another matter, is the sort of the issue to me.
Do you see a path forward with the litigation that's going on between the PGA and the LIV Tour? Do you see some kind of consensus, some kind of pathway?
I don't know that I understand the litigation that well, but if I have the main lines right, can players cross over a little bit? Is that the sort of idea?
Yeah.
Or once they go to LIV, they're done forever? I think that's going to be another market-driven thing. I mean, if there's too many big stars on LIV, and now hey, listen, Phil and Brooks finished tied second at Augusta. Brooks wins at the PGA.
Right.
I mean, if people are starting to think, you know what, a lot of the best players are on that tour, and they always like the best players, right?
Sure.
And so the most charismatic people, then the PGA might have a little bit of a sense of, you know what, we don't want to necessarily totally cut them off, just from a marketing standpoint.
Right. Exactly.
Now, maybe in the meantime, they want to starve them out. Now, listen, if a couple of these guys don't play so well, and sort of the Sergios and some people like that are well past their prime, just kind of fizzle out and they don't really attract the big stars. Then I think the PGA can say, here's the line.
Right. Well, I agree. All right.
If every other major is won by a LIV player, they're going to have to think about it.
They're going to have to think about it. Exactly right. All right. Last question. Talk to us. Tell everybody about Scratch Golf Academy.
Scratch Golf Academy. Okay. Myself and Gary started this thing. He's the business tech side, marketing side. 9-10 years ago, we have several hundred videos on YouTube. Not a giant collection by some people's standards, but we have nearly 500,000 subscribers. We've had 60 million views, give or take. Have a lot of free people at our website and paid people at the website. We have a nice app. I think people obviously like the videos. Some people hate them, but most people find them helpful. What I've tried to do at Scratch Golf is all the decades of teaching full time. You try information out. I've been lucky to be around a lot of great teachers, so I work on stuff that's, take new information and you sort of see what works with people. What's an image that seems to help people in this situation?
Right.
What sort of way of expressing it seems to resonate? And all the stuff I feel is like the greatest hits. It's like a comedian tries all his jokes out for 2 months before hosting the Emmys, only uses the ones people are laughing at.
Yeah.
When the big night comes, I try to do that in the videos. So I think and it's a beautiful place to film. I think Scratch Golf Academy's got good stuff to offer, and I'd invite people to try it.
Great stuff. I highly recommend that. If you want to improve your game, that you check out Scratch Golf Academy and check out Adam as well. Adam, thank you so much for.
Again, so hopefully see you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, I know that you're busy. You always give great content, great information. Always nice having you on the show. And we'll do it again, of course, sooner than later, if I've got anything to do with it. I might take you up
on that Las Vegas thing, too.
Oh, I'm working on it, my friend. I will work on that, I promise. Anyway, again, thank you so much, and we'll talk soon, my friend.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you, Adam. Adam Bazalgette, everybody. Great guy, great teacher. All right, we're going to have one more short commercial. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the show. The Revolutionary Cincinnati Power to Golf Club is helping golfers around the world continue to enjoy the greatest game of all. This amazing club requires no swing to hit shots from 50 up to 225 yards. That's right, no swing to hit shots, including fades, draws, low shots, as well as high ones. One incredible club does it all. Golfers with a wide variety of physical issues, including bad backs, hips, shoulders, and more, are now back in the game golfing with friends and family. Just set the club to the desired distance, and with a push of the button, the easy-to-use Power to Golf Club launches shots down the fairway and onto the green. The Power to Golf Club has been endorsed by some of the biggest names in golf, and the number of golfers enjoying the game by use of our unique technology continues to grow. Whether a physical issue or just want to join in on the fun, the Power to Golf Club is for you. Don't be left on the sidelines. Get back in the game today. Visit at powergolfclub.com. Hi, I'm Dennis Overs, host of the 19th Hole Podcast for Golfers, and I'm here to tell you about some great wedges and putters from Grindworks USA. First, the Grindworks Barrett Collection Wedge Set. These wedges are unparalleled in today's market. The wedges come to you in 3 different lofts, 51, 57, and 61 degrees, all designed to be able to spin around the greens with the ability to hit high, middle, or low shots around the greens. Grindworks also makes a line of their Windsor Wells Precision Machine putters. This beautiful design of putter was not only created to be appealing to the eye, but to perform better on the greens. You will gain a ton of confidence to help lower your scores. Go to grindworksusa.com or call 281-651-4046. I promise your scores will love you for it. All right, everybody, thank you for tuning in to this edition. Great show with Adam. He's a great guy, great information, and a very, very good instructor. We're going to be back with you same time, same place at Rigel Studios next week, so make sure you put it on your calendar, and we'll have another great show for you. Till then, get out, play some golf, keep it in the short stuff, and we'll see you next week, everybody. So long.